plan is also yours.
I thought this was, I was the third one.
No, I mean, I wanted you just to make one shot. So.
Okay, so thank you. So me again. Good. So this is a summary of autonomic network, which is one of the topics that maybe will be on the recharter of the NMRG. So this is a recap of a previous presentation at NMRG. So it will be very quick, but any comment we can give on the mic or in the mailing list. So first, defining an autonomic system, we usually talk about a set of properties which make a system autonomic. The first one, which is the system is automatic in the sense it can self-control its internal functions and operations. The second one, it is adaptive, so it can change its configuration, state, and function according some role, some intent, for example. And it's aware, so it can monitor its operational context. So there are different set of definitions for autonomic system. So, for example, yesterday at the ANIMA working group meeting, people are talking about the self-chop, which is, I believe, it's the most known one. But there are others like MAPK, ODA, and others. So this concept can be applied for the complete network lifecycle. For example, considering installation, commissioning, and operating of the system. And when a network has all these autonomic concepts applied in the whole life cycle, we call it an autonomic networking. And this is an area which is usually addressed by the network management area, like the IAM, NOM, CNSM conference. So it also, I believe, it belongs to NMRG. So doing just a quick recap on academic research, the first mentions on this term are around 2005 and 2006. So there are several antecedents for that. For example, there's the several studies of using artificial intelligence in network management in the 90s. Then around 2007 and 2009, there are a lot of momentum in this area. For example, there is the IMENIX framework of investigation. I don't know if this is the right term for that. The network of excellence, and one of the deliverables of this initiative was autonomic management challenge and solution. So there were a lot of like investigation initiatives on this term, like in that time. And then there's a decrease in interest around 2011, 2013, maybe because there are other technologies that were gaining momentum at that time. For example, SDN and NFV. In the context of IETF, IRTF, there are several efforts. For example, there were 3 autonomic for network management workshops at NMRG meetings. And in these workshops, there are drafts on gap analysis, definitions, network configuration, bootstrapping, detection of SLA violations, and lessons learned, and other stuff like that. And there are several outcomes of these NMRG workshops. For example, we had the UCAN BOF, the use cases of autonomic networking BOF, which was held at IETF 90, and the product of that is the ANIMA working group. There were also some RFCs, the 7575 and 7576, which are some definition, terminology, and gap analysis for autonomic networking. And there are also related efforts on different working groups and research groups. For example, SUPA, HomeNet, SDN, RG, NFV-RG, NML-RG, and so on. So this is a term that appeared and appears in a lot of works in the IETF or RTF. In the case of the ANIMA working group, the first charter of the group, it's really precise on the terms, on the milestones and the topics that should be addressed by the working group. So, for example, there is the development of protocol specifications for the discovery and negotiation of autonomic nodes, and the protocol which was developed for that is GRASP. Then there is also development of a bootstrapping a trust infrastructure, and there is BRISC for that. And there is also the autonomic control plane, which is the ACP. So this was done like this, using just a precise and defined set of work items in order to, avoid boiling the ocean, considering that autonomic networking is kind of, like a big thing. And at that point, the charter said that unchartered work is encouraged as an individual submission or an NMRG submission. So there is this connection between what is done in ANIMA or what is not done in ANIMA and NMRG submissions. And in November 2018, there is this point to recharter ANIMA and maybe to refocus scope or close or something like this. And yesterday there were some discussions on that, but I think it's not defined at this point what will be the next ANIMA charter, so it's open. But still, the term it's important. It's still on the, in the sense it's still appearing. For example, in the Host Speak series tomorrow, there is a talk on autonomous network. So we can say that there is some connection on that, and there is also lots of work about cognitive networks and intelligence-driven networks, and also intent-based network that are also there's some connections to autonomic networking. So I think it's easy to say that this autonomic network is still something that it's interesting or has interest in the networking community. And there are also new application areas for autonomic networking. For example, programmable infrastructures like SDN and NFV. There's new areas of application like 5G, IoT, Smart X. And also, and I think this is an important thing, that it's needed to have a better link with operation communities like RIPE and NOG and others. So some people say that one of the problems of autonomic networking is the lack of real use deployments, and the guys that can can show some how can I say can bring some information on real deployments are the operators. So this is a good source of information for autonomic networking. So. And just to finish the presentation, considering the NMRG, the question is, there is a need, there is interest, there is energy on NMRG for our work on autonomics or autonomics 3.0. So, and this is a rhetorical question. And so if the answer is yes, there are right now 4 proposed efforts. The first one is the intent-based networking, which is, I presented before the work from Alex, Lohan, and Lisandro on this. There is also the possibility of having work on artificial intelligence, on the machine learning for network management, which is also related to autonomic networking. And there is a draft on that right now. I don't know if I think it's active. And the third possible effort would be an integration with network automation approach, for example, zero-touch network, or other thing that is it's perceived as important from other SDOs. And also something that maybe can be interesting is to revisit the RFC 7575 and 7576. So this could lead to a better understanding that what it's expected to have in an autonomic network in the future, or even to understand what are the gaps that ANIMA has on its charter that can be worked as a research and a research manner, so by the NMRG.
Thank you. Dan Bogdanovich, Volta Networks. So I think there is something to be done earlier than that. These are some nice, interesting area to research, but there are some more urgent ones. Autonomic networking brings some new perspectives into network management requirements, especially with regards to the ACP. Mm-hmm. How will you manage as a single system a highly distributed system where each one of them should act autonomously in certain ways, but as a unified system in the other ways, depending from your perspective. And this is one area that I haven't seen much research done. I haven't seen it addressed within the IETF, and there is a step in between needed for us to be able to effectively solve some of the challenges that you are proposing, for the work to be done here.
Great.
Rick Taylor, Airbus. Just to answer Dan, and actually to answer your question on the previous slide, the deep space communications community has a lot of experience with autonomy, not only for networking, but also for sensor platforms and things like that. And they have brought some work to the IETF on how they manage autonomous devices. They took the work to DTN because that's where the comms work is going. We did a hot RFC at the last IETF about it, and we're sort of going around the groups at the moment. So if you are interested in what we're doing with autonomous management for individual devices, and it's exactly as Dan said, you've got to have the individual devices, particularly in massively distributed networks such as the solar system. The devices have got to have some autonomy, and then the network autonomy emerges on top of that. So if people are interested, DTN, it's tomorrow morning. There'll be another presentation there.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Bin Liu from Huawei, and I would like to propose another work you just mentioned in previous slides, which is self-chop. Actually, in last IETF, I presented a new draft. The main content is to discuss the self-chop things. I think people have some interest in that. Firstly, we can come up with a taxonomy of the self-chop, whether people in a community or the industry can have a consensus. Okay, in the network life cycle, there are maybe 3 or 4, 5 aspects of the self-chop. And second, I think it might be useful that we do some analysis of the self-chop technologies in different scenarios, the DC network, metro network, backhaul network, etc., and to see whether some emerging new technologies such as N10-based network or machine learning and artificial intelligence can help these self-chop to be applicable in real network. Yeah, thank you.
There was a draft from Costas that it's expired. That I think that
quite a long time ago.
A long time ago, but I believe that one of the ideas of Costas was to add just that, like some of the points that you made. So one thing that we can do is like revive this draft and try to frame it in a way that you are thinking, Bill. So we can talk about this later.
Yeah, we have to close the line after Will and be quick because we have still another presentation and I would like to save time for the discussion.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky, huh? So this is Will from Huawei. Actually, I have support to do something here because this is really the whole industry is looking for, actually, not only in IETF, but also in other standard body and as well as the open source consortia. And one information in addition to your previous slides is that actually last year, in 2017, we create a ISG in industry standard specification group in ETSI called ENI, Experiential Network Intelligence. Actually, last year I was here presenting the progress of that. So until now, we already, studied and published 5 work items, and we have the first version white paper. We have the use cases for network intelligence, requirement, architecture, and we already started 2 POCs. One is from China Telecom, the other from Telecom Mobile, Italia Mobile. So we are interested in cooperating with IETF work here. And I remember we already sent the liaison, I guess. Maybe, yes. This is up to the chair. Okay, that's the information I brought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pedro, if you can hear us remotely, can you please go into the line to speak?